During the 70s, Queensland matches against the Blues were often one-sided affairs. Maroons not only battled for victory, but also battled for recognition from the national selectors. However, one player who battled through right to the top was Queensland and Australian skipper Greg Veivers. It's 10 years, Greg, since you were forced to give the game away. There's been some mighty changes since then, though.
Tony, yeah, changes have happened, I guess, for the better of the game. I think the State of Origin situation, which came just after I give it away, was really an innovation that turned out to be a bonanza. And also now with the Broncos entry into Sydney, I think it's fantastic for the game and certainly for the public.
It was an eye injury that forced your premature retirement. How is it now?
Pretty good. I can still see enough to get into trouble. I probably dropped about 25% of sight on the second occasion. I'd done it ago. Originally, I'd done it in 75, and I lost a bit. They said it would never occur again, but it came back in 79, unfortunately, and I guess someone's got to give it away at some stage.
Greg, that's not your only legacy from the game of rugby league. Your voice is somewhat gravelly. What happened there?
That's the legacy of running a few short arms, Durkin, in England. I was pretty young and not too bright, I guess, running with my head in the air, and I was soon shortened over there.
And it all started all those years ago at Veivers.
Mate, it did. Veivers was very good to me. I started rugby league down there in a side coached by Sid Kellnan, whom I guess a lot of people would know. And in that side, the captain of the side, actually in those days, was a fellow well known to rugby league, a bloke by the name of Ian Douth. And fortunately, we got together again in the side. I think it was 76 in Queensland side. But ironically, actually, in those early days, Douthie wasn't too often given the ball to kick goals. I used to be the goal kicker.
Things changed after that.
Yeah.
Well, after your days in Bay Desert, you went to South in Brisbane.
Yes, I did. In a roundabout way. I couldn't get a start at East, and then I went to Brothers, and I got the shunt from there, and I finished at South, where I played all my senior football, and had a terrific relationship there with South and the players. It's been a great club to me and many other players that have gone through, yeah.
You stayed pretty loyal to them, Greg. Did Sydney ever beckon?
Sydney did. I mean, I had a lot of offers there over my time, I guess, from probably 6 or 7 clubs. And I just sort of used to sit down and weigh it all up, and quite frankly, there is life after rugby league, which is probably sad in some respects when you see some of the players running around even today with a bit of age on them. They still try to dwell on the old times, but you know, progress is progress, and I felt I looked further afield than just playing in those short number of years.
And you've done okay out of your life since you gave the football away?
My life's been pretty good to me, you know. I never made a quid out of football, contrary to what everybody said, you know. I suppose the most I ever picked up out of a game for a season was nearly 10, you know, and things have changed now. They're probably 12-fold that, aren't they, you know, and that seems to be an average for top players. But yeah, my business has been good. I've been in the insurance industry for 16 years, had my own business, and it's been very successful for me. And I think the principles of rugby league, of what one had to do to be successful there, applies in anything you do, and I think if you can put them to business, marriage, whatever, you know, it just works that way.
Well, Greg, you may not have made too much money out of rugby league when you played, but you certainly have some great memories to treasure, and no doubt your greatest thrill must have been your selection as Australian captain for the World Cup in 1978, I think it was. But again, that was shrouded with some kind of controversy.
It seems to be the story of my life, Durko. Controversy, yeah. I wasn't aware at the time, but I believe that what happens with the selection committee, which oftentimes I think of it now, and why do we have a selection committee? Because the selectors pick the side, and then it's got to go and be vetted by the board, and if the board don't like what they see, apparently they change, and that's still the case today. Well, in my case, apparently I was selected as captain, went to the board in Sydney, and Beetson's name wasn't mentioned in the side, and the board put Beetson back in, and Arthur was captain, and I was vice captain, which is rather rare to see front rowers captain and vice captain in any side. You normally have a back and a forward. But To Arthur's to credit, you know, I mean, I have nothing but the highest praise for Arthur. In fact, I used to think Arthur was probably the greatest footballer I ever encountered in my term in the game. But Arthur found out that news and decided that if he wasn't the player to be selected and Graham Olling was the player, then he should have been on the side. So that's how I finished up getting the Guernsey.
Greg, even though you made 7 appearances in the Australian jersey, you were never credited with a test. Is that disappointing?
No, Terry, no, not really, because between 72 and 78 there were never any test matches. They were all World Cup, and our peers, all those guys that played there, our peers today rate those games purely and simply as tests, and I think that can be substantiated by the fact now that kangaroo reunions are equal to those who play World Cup or tests, purely and simply because there were no tests played in that era, you know.
Well, as you said earlier, Greg, you were pre-state of origin. How tough were New South Wales to beat in your long run for Queensland?
Yeah, they were pretty tough, I suppose. I suppose they were tougher than what they are now, really, because the Queensland makeup was basically of subordinates. All the best players used to go over the border, and I must say, to the credit of all those players that I played with, there was not one player that ever turned it up, and there wouldn't again be one player that never played 150% of his ability on any of those games. I mean, they were really terrific games, and as you say, pretty hard, but mate, they were really enjoyable, and the friendships that you've pulled out of that, you know, they're just, you can't replace them, and that's the most important thing one gets out of rugby league or sport of any nature, isn't it, you know?
Had injury not intervened, Greg Veivers would almost certainly have been in that Queensland side for the historic first state of origin back in 1980. But he wasn't and has no regrets. Despite the struggles and the tough battles, the greatest game of all will remain one of his greatest memories.